Hello, and welcome back to another video on this channel. Today we are going to be answering the question, how would I judge RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17? The season just finished airing, so if you don't want to hear spoilers about the winner or etc., this video is not for you. If you enjoy watching my videos, please consider subscribing and leave a like. I would really appreciate that. Now, let's get into it. So, in the first two episodes, the queens were performing in the talent show, and the twist called Raid a Queen came back. Since the queens were in charge, I am not going to change the results. However, I'm going to show you how I would rank the girls, based on their performances. So, this was the original ranking. Susie Toot and Jewel Sparkles were in the top two, Lucky Stars, Ariete, Lydia, and Joella were safe, and Acacia Forgot ended up in the bottom. Here is my personal ranking. I do agree with Susie and Jules being in the top two, however Acacia had no business in the bottom. As you can see, I decided to put her at third place, which means almost in the top two. Now listen, I absolutely love Joella, and I wanted her to win the season, since she was just so entertaining and I will forever be a Joella stan. But the truth is that she should have been in the bottom over Acacia. The song is so iconic, but I think we can all agree she deserved 7th place. So, Susie Toot and Jewel Sparkles were lip-syncing to Women's World by Katy Perry. Susie Toot ended up winning, and at the time I was like, yep, that makes sense, I totally agree. But then, when I was listening to Willem and Alaska's podcast Race Chaser, Alaska said she was shocked Susie Toot won because she wasn't lip-syncing during the tap dancing part. I didn't even notice that, but I went to check it out and she was right. This is why I think Jewel Sparkles should have won the lip sync and the whole episode. It's literally called a lip sync, and Susie's lips were not in sync. Love her though. Let's move on to the second group of girls. This is the ranking from the episode. Lexi and Crystal top 2, Lana, Sam, Onya and Corey safe, and Hormona in the bottom 2. Here I actually pretty much agree with the outcome. This is how I would place each of them. Many people wanted Onya Nerve to be in the top 2 with Lexi, but I don't agree with that. Her song was cute and catchy, but I just love Crystal's track. I'm listening to it to this day. Also, I really enjoyed Sam Starr's performance, but that is probably because I love country. So Lexi and Crystal are going to be lip-syncing to Alter Ego, and listen, this was one of the best lip syncs from this season. It went viral and people were obsessed, myself included. They both ate that up, but I do agree with Lexi Love winning, so I kept her as the winner. As for the bottoms, Acacia Forgot and Hormona Lisa lip-synced to Yes and by Ariana Grande. Honestly, I think this lip sync was a little overhated. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't that bad. Acacia definitely did do a better job than Hormona, which means she gets to stay. But as you can see, no one is eliminated because Hormona was saved by the Badonka Donk Tank twist. I wonder if it was rigged or not, but honestly I would say it was not rigged. But who knows? In episode 3, the queens were tasked to create from scratch a look that screams opulence. Sam Starr originally won this challenge, which I do agree with. I think her look was so chic and well made. Definitely a deserved win. Many people thought Ariete should have won, and she did do a really good job. However, I prefer Sam's gown, so I kept her as the winner. Ariete is still going to be high, but originally the queen who also was high this episode was Onya Nerve. I personally don't agree with that. For me, she was like 5th overall. I decided to put Hormona Lisa in the top over Onya, because this dress she created looked really stunning. Maybe they didn't want to put her in the top because she broke the rules, but she removed the rainstones and she didn't need them because she still looked spectacular. I also want to give an honorable mention to Crystal Envy since she also did great and also could have been in the top. As for the bottoms, I completely agree. Corey King did okay. It wasn't giving opulence, but the dress was cute and she definitely did better than Lucky Stars and Joella. So yeah, Corey is still going to be low, and Joella and Lucky are going to lip-sync to the song, It's Just the Way That You Love Me. I was very convinced that Joella was going to go home, because I would never predict Lucky to be the pork chop. However, Joella did better than Lucky, so her winning the lip sync was completely fair and square. Lucky was doing too much, and I think at one point she lost her shoes, which is a no-no on Drag Race. That means Lucky Stars is still going to be the pork chop of season 17, which is so sad because I wanted to see more runways she prepared for the season. On episode 4, it was a singing challenge based on the iconic moments that happened on Drag Race. Y'all gonna come for me because I didn't give the win to Onya, but in my opinion, Crystal Envy should have won this challenge instead. She did amazing in the challenge, had the best runway look of the week, was a great leader and a great tumbleweed. No, but seriously, I think she did as good as Onya, and the fact that she was a great leader and had the best runway should result in her taking the win here. Onya also did an amazing job, but she was a close second for me. Susie Toot is gonna stay high because she also did a great job. Now, originally Ariete was low, which was totally not deserved. Did Jules outshine her? A little bit, but in my opinion Lexi was the one who should have been low here. She did fine, I guess, but had probably the worst song out of all of them, which is not her fault. I just don't think it was that funny or entertaining, so that's why I decided to put her low. Lexi's runway look this week was absolutely breathtaking though, so it would be a good opportunity for RuPaul to say how gorgeous she looks and how proud she is to invite Utica to be on All Stars. Like really, bring back Utica, I'm begging. Back to the video, I think everyone except for Corey did a really good job this week, and if Joella had a better runway look, she could have escaped being in the bottom too, since as I said, she did a really good job in the challenge. She is just known for her looks and to be opulent. Oh my god, I will forever stan this woman. At this point, I really wanted her to win the season, and in my head she is the winner. She will forever be famous. I love you, Joella. But yeah, Corey won the lip sync. Joella didn't really know some of the lyrics, and it was pretty obvious she was going to go home. So unfortunately we have to say goodbye to the Slasian diva from LA. Bye, Queen. I promise I will never forget the Ella. Now it's time for the acting challenge, and I also made some changes. Susie Toot is still going to win the challenge because she really was the biggest standout. You can tell this is what she does since she did amazing. Also, some of the queens hated her runway look, but I personally liked it. Onya was originally high, and I definitely agree. She did really well as a host. The amount of charisma she has is truly impressive. Originally, the other high spot went to Hormona Lisa, however I decided to put Acacia in the top instead of Hormona. It was definitely Acacia's best episode. She did such a good job, knew all the references, and deserved more recognition. So, this was the episode in which Ariete got saved by the Badonka Dunk Tank twist, however she didn't even deserve to be in the bottom. In my opinion, she was close to the top. She listened to the critiques they gave her earlier in the season, and was trying not to be outshined. And she succeeded, because she was the one who outshined Corey. I was considering putting Corey King in the bottom too, but I think Sam should be there instead, since I don't think her character choice paid off. The voice was weird. I didn't enjoy her performance at all. Lydia definitely struggled the most here, so her being in the bottom makes sense. That means Sam Starr and Lydia B. Collins are gonna lip sync to Boogie Wonderland, and oh my god, Lydia absolutely devoured. It was one of my favorite lip syncs from this season. Now, would Sam pull the first leather? We never know, but I think she would analyze if the numbers mean anything, and there's a possibility of her clocking it. I decided to save her, which means the Badonka Dunk Tank twist is now over, as it was originally. Episode 6 was the ball challenge, and here we have the first change in the elimination order. But first, let's discuss the top queens. Ariete definitely deserved to win this challenge. She destroyed every single category. Definitely a rightful winner. Sam Starr and Crystal Envy were originally in the top, which I do agree with, so I did not change it. I think Lexi did a pretty good job here as well. I really enjoyed her first two looks, and the one she made was also pretty cool. If they wanted to put her high, they could have done it here instead of in the Snatch game, where she bombed, but we'll get into that later. Originally in the bottom three we had Acacia, Hormona, and Lana, but in my opinion Hormona had no business in the bottom. I didn't like her first two looks, however the one she constructed was cute and pretty well made. I can see her being low at worst, but I decided to put Lydia low because I didn't really enjoy her package. I was also considering Corey to be low, but at the end I decided to go with Lydia. Acacia was originally low, but as much as I love her, I think she should have been in the bottom two and lip sync against Lana. For me, they were the clear bottom two of the night. So they're gonna lip sync to Get Him Back by Olivia Rodrigo. Lana did do a pretty good job to this song. I think Acacia would also do serviceable, but not good enough to beat Lana, which means she is gonna go home a bit earlier than originally. Honestly, when she survived this episode, I was shocked, but thrilled, because I really love her, and she is probably the most underappreciated queen from season 17. I put her in my dream top 4, and I absolutely do not regret it. Acacia will never be forgotten. Now it's time for the Snatch game, and here we have Hormona over Acacia. I don't know what character she would end up playing, but I know this was her backup. She did bomb the roast, but in the Snatch game, I think she would do a really good job, if I'm being honest. I was considering putting her high over Corey King, but I decided against it because Corey did such a good job. Her runway was terrible, though. Sam and Lexi were high, but I decided to put them just safe. They both had some funny moments, but I don't think they deserve to be high. Onya and Jules were clearly the biggest standouts, and I would agree with any of them winning. The judges chose Onya, and I would choose her as the winner as well, so she is still gonna win, and Jules is gonna be high. Also, this was the episode that pissed me off because Crystal went home basically for no reason. Yes, she didn't do a good job, but she wasn't as bad as Lana and Ariete. Yes, Ariete had really amazing runway look as always, but it was not enough to save her from lip-syncing. And even if Crystal was in the bottom two, she won that lip sync. I will forever stand by that. You can say I'm biased, but I'm not. Like, be for real, they both did a great job, but Lana lost her wig, while Crystal didn't have a single fuck-up and had a better track record. Anyways, in this scenario Lana is going to be lip-syncing against Ariete. I decided to keep Ariete. I don't know why so many people says she is a bad lip-syncer. Yes, Lydia destroyed her earlier, but she still did good most of the time, but had some bad moments, since she probably panicked when everyone was living for Lydia. Secondly, when she lip-synced against Jules, it was really close, you cannot deny that. She can lip-sync, and if her wig doesn't fall, she is winning here. That means Lana is gonna go home much more early. If you think I hate her, go and watch my other video about season 17. I wanted Lana to be in the top 4, and I do love her, but I think this was her time to go. Moving on, in the Rusical, I basically agree with everything. Honestly, Rusicals are fun, and some of the songs we got from the Rusicals are cool and catchy, but I do not like this challenge, since you cannot win if you have a smaller part. But well, when I was watching the episode, I was hoping for Jules to snatch the win, and she was very close, but then Sam Star came out and destroyed everyone else. Her song was hands down the best out of all of them, and her Cher impersonation was also great. Onya and Susie did great as well, so they are also in the top with Jules. Here we have Hormona and Crystal over Acacia and Lana, so how well would they do? I think Crystal would be fine. I have no clue which parts would they took, but I do think that Crystal would do good enough to be safe. Hormona might be in trouble though. I'm not saying she would absolutely flop, however I don't see her doing better than any of the safe divas, so I decided to put her in the bottom 2 with Corey King. I think this would be interesting to see those two in the bottom, because Corey did not like Hormona since the beginning. The lip-sync song was Wet Dream by Adam Lambert. Corey was doing a really good job, but she did not listen to her wife and didn't secure the wig, so it fell off. Now, the wig falling off is a cardinal sin in my opinion, so I was very close to keep Hormona over Corey. But at the end, I decided against it, since as I said earlier, Corey was doing really amazing, and lip-syncing is not Hormona's strong suit. When she lip-synced against Acacia, she did okay, but I don't think she would be able to beat Corey, especially to this song. We have to say goodbye to Hormona Lisa, but this time she survived longer than originally. And now it's time for the third design challenge of the season. As you can see, I didn't change a single placement this episode. Here we have Crystal envy over Lana, and I was considering putting her high. However, Lexi, Ariete, and Jules did really amazing in this challenge, so I decided to keep them all in the top. Jules is still gonna win. Honestly, it could have been any of them, and I would agree. But Betsy Johnson even said that Jules' dress looked like it was from her collection, which means Jules perfectly met the assignment. I did not change anything in the bottom either. Onya is still going to be low. Her dress was cute, but was not constructed very well. I kept Lydia and Corey in the bottom too. Corey probably just gave up, and as for Lydia, it was just too much going on. I'm not saying she did badly though. So they're gonna lip sync to Kiss Me Deadly, and it was really amazing to see them kiss. This is what we've been waiting for. Overall, Lydia definitely does better than Corey, and Corey pretty much knew it was her time to go, and she also wanted Lydia to stay. Now, let's move on to the roast. Lydia ended up winning, which I absolutely agree with. She was hands down the funniest, and even though I didn't understand her runway look, she still deserved to win the challenge. Honestly, when I was watching the episode, I thought only Lydia and Lana did well, but Lana is not here in this scenario, and that's why I decided to move Susie Toot up to high. She had some funny jokes, and her runway look was better than Onya's, so that is why I chose her to be high. I think Crystal would definitely do better than Ariete, Jules, and Lexi, so she is going to be safe. Lexi did struggle, but not as much as Ariete and Jules. She is still going to be low, which means in the bottom two we have Jules and Ariete. Now listen, I understand why Ariete was mad, but at the end of the day it is a competition and she should have just accepted. Especially because she would do badly no matter where was she placed. I'm so happy Onya defended Jules, because she literally did nothing wrong. Also, stealing jokes was really inappropriate. In conclusion, Ariete did many wrong moves, and her mirror message was also very nasty, but you'll have to remember that if you are sending hate to her or to anyone else, you are acting even worse than her in this episode. But anyway, as I said earlier in the video, this lip sync was really close and I was so scared for Jules, but she did do better than Ariete, which means she gets to stay, and Ariete is eliminated. In the next episode, there was the acting challenge, and the queens were tasked to act in Ross Matthews versus the Ducks. It wasn't my favorite challenge, but I'm not a fan of scripted acting challenges in general. The majority of the queens did a pretty good job in this challenge, and I basically didn't change a single placement. Onya Nerve is still gonna win. Her runway look was not good, but she really destroyed this challenge and was absolutely the best. Big Fupa was probably the best possible role to choose, and it obviously worked in Onya's favor. I do not know which role would Crystal choose, but probably she would just take Lana's role and be Drippy Q. It was a really strong night for Sam Star. She was very close to win the challenge, and was definitely my second favorite. Lexi and Susie worked well as a duo as well, and I kept them both high. Jules Sparkles did not do a bad job, however I think she could have done much better. Her runway look was so stunning though, and I decided to keep her low, which means it's down to Crystal Envy and Lydia B. Collins. It was hard to watch, because I really liked Lydia, and when she originally lip-synced against Lana, she was winning until the scissors came out. She didn't even need to cut out the dress. I'm sure they wanted her to stay, and it could have been justified, since she was doing well when the lip-sync started. But well, there's no way Crystal would lose here, and Lydia B. Collins is still gonna go home, placing 7th. It's time for episode 12, and the Maxi Challenge was to perform in the charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent monologues while a partner does an interpretive dance to the story. As you can see, I didn't change a single placement here as well because I think it was being judged pretty fairly. But honestly, if it was just the monologues and runways, without an interpretive dance, Susie Toot would have won the challenge, because her monologue was hands down my favorite. And her runway look was also my favorite. But yeah, Lexi and Onya were definitely the best duo, and they both deserve to win. There's no way Crystal and Sam would escape the bottom two, because Susie and Jules also did a really good job, Plus, both Crystal's and Sam's runways were not ugly. Here's Crystal's unaired runway look. Ugly where? This is literally one of the prettiest runways she wore. The lip-sync song from this week was Illusion by Dua Lipa. Sam started an okay job, and I think this would be enough to send Crystal home, since Sam has a bit better track record. I'm not sure about it, but I decided to keep Sam. So, the makeover episode is next, and to be honest with you, I do not like makeovers. The judging is often really unfair, and in my opinion, makeovers should not have eliminations. That's why I decided to do the top 2 lip-syncing for the win. Originally, Onya and Jules ended up in the bottom, which was fair because they definitely did worse than Lexi, Susie, and Sam. However, since now it's the top 2 lip-sync for the win, I kept Lexi, Onya, and Jules safe. Honestly, I could have put Lexi high because she also did great this episode. Sam destroyed this challenge. Her looks were so stunning, and the makeup was gorgeous as well. The second top 2 spot went to Susie Toot because I did agree with her placing high in the original timeline. You can make an argument for Lexi being there as well. I would agree with both of them taking that second top 2 spot. So, Sam Star and Susie Toot are going to be lip-syncing to the song I Thing by Amory. I think Susie Toot would probably win this. I don't necessarily think that this song is in her wheelhouse, but I have a feeling she would be able to beat Sam. Now it is time for episode 14, and the challenge was to audition for RuPaul's Drag Race Live, including a photo shoot, interview, performance, and promotional video. To be fair, it was pretty obvious that Susie Toot was going to be in the bottom, since she was the least Vegas-oriented girl left in the game. I can't really deny that her bottom placement was absolutely deserved. I did not like her interview, photo shoot, or promotional video. In the performance she was fine, but overall her performance in the challenge was unfortunately bottom-worthy. Her runway look was the best though. She looked really stunning. Jules Sparkles definitely did the best this episode, so I still gave her the win. Lexi had a better interview than Jules, however Lexi's video definitely was not my favorite and Jules just did great in every part of the challenge. And by the way, in this scenario this is her third win. Onya did a good job as well, but I was not a fan of her interview. She seemed a bit reserved, but it still was okay. So yeah, Onya and Lexi are still going to be high, which means we have the same bottom 2 as originally. I do think that this episode was judged pretty fairly. I don't think Sam did as bad as they were trying to convince us, but on the other hand, Jules, Onya, and Lexi definitely did better, and that is why she is still in the bottom. Sam Star and Susie Toot lip-synced to Love Child, and it was incredibly close. I honestly thought they were going to keep Susie, but surprisingly Sam Star ended up winning the lip-sync, and Susie Toot had to sashay away. They both took different approaches because Sam was more serious, while Susie was trying to be more cookie. I feel like they could have justified any of them staying, and I decided to keep Sam, which means Susie is still going to finish at 5th place. I was devastated when it happened, but something great happened 1 week later, and now I'm less sad. You already know what I'm talking about, right? Yep, lip-sync Lollapalooza. I think this idea of the lip-sync Smackdown is cool because one of the eliminated queens is still going to snatch $50,000, and some of them have a chance to redeem themselves. But, oh my god, bring back reunions. Okay, let's get into lip-sync Lollapalooza. Since we have the same top 4, we don't have to predict anything in first few rounds. The first lip-sync of the night was between Hormona Lisa and Lydia B. Collins. It probably was the worst lip-sync of the night, but Lydia definitely won that. I have no clue why Hormona decided to do all the reveals in the first 15 seconds. Lydia is moving on, and the next round was between Joella and Susie. Let me say that both of them did a good job, and I enjoyed both of their performances, however Susie did do better. She definitely won, but not by a landslide. The next lip-sync was between Lucky Stars and Acacia Forgot. I was so happy, because Lucky absolutely destroyed that lip-sync and had her redemption. Acacia did fine, but after Lucky's basketball's reveal, it was over. Now it's time for round number 4. Arietti versus Corey King. Now listen, both of them did great, and it was one of my favorite lip syncs of the night. I would definitely tip them both if I was watching it live. However, in my opinion, Arietti outperformed Corey. And as you saw, I'm not the only one who thinks she won. The queens were really shocked when she came back to the workroom. That means we have the first change. Corey King originally made it to the final round, but here she unfortunately is eliminated much more early. But let me just say that she absolutely destroyed Lydia and Lana in the three-way lip sync I was living. So yeah, Arietti is moving on to the next round, and now it's time for Crystal versus Lana. Listen, Crystal is gonna win this, and before you start calling me Lana Jarre's hater, let me explain. I do not hate Lana, I just don't like what she does when she lip syncs sometimes. When she started riding Crystal, it was over for me. I think that was totally unnecessary, and she should have respected Crystal's personal space. Maybe it's just me, and you have the right to disagree with me, but at that moment she lost it for me. Now it's time for Lucky Stars versus Susie Toot, and they're going to be lip-syncing to We Found Love. I think we can all agree Susie won. Unfortunately, Lucky was doing too much, and the basketballs were out too early. So Susie is moving on to the final round of the lip-sync Lollapalooza Smackdown, and the three-way lip-sync this time will be between Lydia, Arietti, and Crystal. As I said earlier, originally Corey absolutely destroyed that lip-sync, but since she is not here, who would win instead? I have no idea, but to be honest with you, I don't think it's Lydia. No shade, but it definitely wasn't her best lip-sync. I think this would be a battle between Crystal and Arietti, and I chose Arietti to move on to the final round. I am just guessing at this point. I'm sure they both would do a really good job, but I decided to give it to Arietti. So it's time for the final round, between Susie Toot and Arietti. The queen of She Done Already Done had hers sis. Susie Toot. I'm so happy Susie won the Smackdown. She is such a good performer, and it was so nice to see her winning a decent cash prize after getting cut right before the finale. Congratulations to Susie Toot. And now, it is time for the finale. So honestly, it is a pretty strong top four, and I would say they all had a shot of winning. But can we take a moment to appreciate how gorgeous Susie Toot and Nymphia Wind looked? Susie's finale runway was, I think, one of my favorite runways in history. Okay, now let's talk about the individual performances. Jules Sparkles did really well. I love how unserious and funny it was. She knows her brand, but all of them do, because really all four of the finalists did great and proved that they deserve to be in the final four. Lexi's performance was also great. Roller skates reveal turned out really cool, and the song was catchy. Such a successful night for her. Onya Nerve was next, and her original song was probably my favorite one. Also, she proved that you don't need to do splits and dips to really captivate the audience. Sam started good as well, although her song was, I think, my least favorite. It was cute, and the red carpet reveal was amazing. It was a good performance, but unfortunately, it didn't come out on top in my opinion. So, before the final lip sync, we have to cut someone. Originally, Lexi and Sam were cut, but I decided to cut only Sam. I think all Jules, Lexi, and Onya absolutely killed it, and deserved to lip sync for the crown. It is time to crown the winner of the season. The winner of RuPaul's Drag Race, Season 17 is Onya Nerve. Honestly, going to the finale, I think all of us knew she was going to win. And, to be honest with you, I would never predict that she was going to win the season. In my predictions, I said she was going to be an early out, and as you can see, I was terribly wrong. In this scenario, she has a slightly weaker track record, but she still did great, and definitely deserved to win. For example, when Season 16 was airing, I predicted Nymphia to be the winner from the jump, which is fine, but sometimes it is really cool when the winner is unpredictable. Congratulations to Onya Nerve. And what do you think about RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17? Did you enjoy watching it, and who are you rooting for? Let me know in the comments and like and subscribe if you want to stay with me longer. See you in the next video.